I speaking? You are now. I'm speaking.
Speak up, Fred. Speak up.
So we broke it up. We had a number of different things that we thought were important, and so we gave them to different groups to do. One of them was this idea of looking at a really healthy bosque and wetlands from the hot air balloon above. Education, lots of different types of education, and then community involvement and access. And so then we broke it into groups, and we're going to let each person tell us sort of what their vision was.
So we kind of thought of the different pieces that we wanted to educate and bring to the public, and some of those had to do with sustainable agriculture and gardening. How can you take the information that you learn here and apply it in your own life and in your own area? And demonstration gardens, whatever they might be, we want to attract them from the road, so we positioned it close to the road. Visitor center, in order to talk about alternative energy possibilities and how is this building sustained, and the toilets and the electrical. We can talk about alternative energy, and of course we were thinking that would be solar and wind generation. We also had an area to teach about technology, research, and development, and we wanted to talk about, once you circulate through these other educational points, how do you tie that all together, and how do you work with the technology that we have here with us in our society. We also had a wildlife, so fauna, and what are the animals that we can see around us, whether they might be indigenous or non-indigenous to Mexico or this area, and the wetlands. So summing it all, tying all these education pieces together, it's even though you have these pieces that talk about systems working together and how nothing can be brought out of here, what is the global systems that we see around us in terms of the sun and the oceans and the climate, and how does that influence and move these local systems? But we want this to be sustainable. So how do we get it sustainable? It's all about youth, involving community in service learning projects in each of these areas, because if we can get it to the public education system where youth now has to do service learning projects in their schools, where we've got a labor force, we've got manpower, and we've got the sustainability through generations.
Well, before we do that, real quick, so our third partner in this lives here, and so she had access to this by foot, or maybe by horse, I wasn't quite sure, or maybe both. So a lot of this is all foot travel, not road travel, but there is some maintenance access.
Right, and we have our engineer sign off down on
Okay, so we worked on the vision of a healthy bosque and a really productive wetlands here, and so we'd like to see different various levels of vegetation structure and complexity along the river, and that it has some natural flooding patterns, at least in the area, to kind of restore the native vegetation that's out there, and have that native healthy bosque kind of filter in through here, so we have healthy and very productive wetlands that are full of resident birds as well as migratory birds and other wildlife. And I think that was kind of our vision. Also to have some fields as well as marshy areas, attract a variety of animals.
I just got here. Is this open for any questions?
No.
Okay. I think that's what we've got.
That's you. Cool.
So this is dealing with community involvement and access, and neither one of us are that artistic, but we did the best we could. Just to give you a sense, here's the downtown, the city, here's the mountains, the river, of course, and some plant life and so forth, and transportation. But what we were focusing on in terms of thinking about this is that obviously part of the success of this project is going to be a wide involvement for the community, not just the people that are already concerned about this refuge, but people from all over New Mexico, actually. We talked about how in order for Albuquerque to survive and for this refuge to survive, we need the input of all of New Mexico. And to realize that, especially with the Rio Grande corridor, that this is very much a regional issue. That's why you have this little map of New Mexico. It's very telling, I guess. And then also, I was thinking that this is, before it was a dairy farm and before it was a refuge, this was probably cultivated by various pueblos and other indigenous people. And of course, a Sleta Pueblo is just south of here. And so that part of the community involvement would be not only to have educational activities, classes, scientific research and so forth, but also to partner in some way with the pueblos, both Isleta, Sandia, other places, in terms of what is often referred to as the old ways, you know, that now we think of as new sustainable outlets, but are actually going back to traditional ways. And so another thing is that it also, I see it, and I think others agree, that this could be a refuge not only for wildlife and for plant life, but also for the South Valley, because the South Valley has always been kind of amorphous, you know, I mean, obviously the river is a main artery for it, but I think something like this, with the community so involved and having access to it in many ways, that it could be sort of a real kind of heart of the valley, and in the larger sense, a heart of Albuquerque and northern New Mexico. So, I don't know, Karen, you might want to add something to it.
Sort of along the same lines, but just the idea that the connections between the landscape and the animals, including us, that depend on it, the connections between the various peoples that live here and work here and visit here, and the physical connections between the property, this property, and the local residences and the river and businesses in the area and the pueblos. Sort of connections was a kind of a big theme for us, and making the connections, but also recognizing the connections that exist.
All right, very good.